We are Yourchestra. That was called Woodpile Shake. And that was one of the first songs our band ever played back in 2006. I started this band with our guitarist Steve Stutzky to play jug band music. And if you are uninitiated into jug band music, it's kind of this style that started in the 20s and 30s, Kentucky, Louisiana, Memphis. One of our favorite bands was the Memphis Jug Band. And it's kind of like a cross between a bunch of different kinds of music that there wasn't really a name for. And so it was ragtime and blues and jazz and popular music, and it was played in rural areas, and maybe they didn't have enough money to buy a tuba, so they played it on a jug, and they buzzed their lips and played it like a tuba would. And so we actually had a jug player in the band too, and we had a lot of fun, and we did a lot of those songs. And it's been a long journey. We've had a lot of different members and different styles that we focused on, and right now we are focused pretty much strictly on 1920s music. So that's what we've been doing. That song was from 1926. And we're going to play a song, this kind of like shows what we're getting into now, which is more 20s style New Orleans jazz, and this is by Jelly Roll Morton. And maybe the Piano Society is familiar with Jelly Roll Morton. He's one of the greatest jazz musicians. He was the first person to notate his own jazz compositions. And he was really a genius, and sometimes he gets overshadowed by the flashier parts of his life. Oh, he was a gambler, he was a pimp, but he was really a genius and one of the founders of jazz music. So we're going to play his song called Wolverine Blues. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
keep pushing buttons till something happens that is desirable. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for coming out to this concert. As Richard had said, we're focusing on music from a certain era, and the instrument that I have up here is in fact from that era. It was made, this is a Deegan, let me make sure I get it right, Marimba Xylophone. This model of instrument was made by the Deegan Company in Chicago from the years about 1910 to 1925. And doing a little more recent research, I discovered that the A440 stamped on this bar tells me that it was made from 1917 onward. So this instrument is 100 years old. This is great. I bought this at a Goodwill in Phoenix. So I don't remember how much money I paid for it, but it was a ridiculously small amount, and I found it because a colleague of mine, who was another graduate student, came to me one day and said, "Hey, I was in a resale store in Central Phoenix, and I saw one of those things that looks like one of those things you play." And I didn't know what she was talking about, but I thought, well, I have to go see what it is. And it was this instrument, and it still had the moving tags on it. Somebody had moved out here from the East Coast, and it still had the name of the moving company on all the parts. So it had been moved out here, sat in somebody's attic, never got set back up and played. So I made an offer on it, they accepted it, I took it home, I spent a lot of time cleaning up the resonators. They were a little corroded. Got the bars retuned, because they'd never been retuned. So it sat around my house for a long time and is finally getting used to play the music it was meant to play. So I'm so happy to be part of this group, because now I feel like it's happy now. It's like, I get to play the music of my people, my era. So the piece that we're going to play now is called Charleston Capers, and it was written by a xylophonist named George Hamilton Green, who was born in the late 1800s. And he was a musical prodigy. He started on piano, and as I read recently, by the age of 11, he was already making a name for himself on the xylophone at 11 years old, which is, yeah, a xylophone, really? But he went on to write many, many tunes. He played on a lot of radio programs, and is sort of the big name in xylophone ragtime style music. So this is Charleston Capers.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. And let's just give it up again for Dr. And I'm actually going to pass the microphone over to my esteemed colleague, Steve Aceta, who's our sax player. He's going to sing this next one.
Thank you. Yeah, and then let me push the button for you. Push the button, yes. There you go.
All right, I'll count it. You want to tell them what we're playing? Tell the kind folks.
There's an Abe Lyman tune. He was based in California, from what I can understand, and was famous for this song and another song called "Let's Misbehave," which is another really great song. We should do something like that.
Good advice, both of them.
Yeah.
1, 1. We're going to pass the vocal responsibilities over to our wonderful guitarist, Steve Studsky now.
Hey guys. So this next tune, it was written by Jimmy Cox in 1923. There's a famous recording from 1929 by Bessie Smith, and the vocals she added to it were kind of about, like, what's it called? Prohibition, and the speakeasies and all that, and the fleeting nature of friendship. It's called Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out.
In the last maybe 15 years, there's been a lot of discoveries and more in-depth research into the history of the banjo. And it's become kind of popular to just say, well, the banjo comes from Africa, you know? And that's not true, but there's some truth to it, and banjo historians are trying to kind of set that straight to help people stop saying that. And the ancestor of this instrument does come from Africa, and they're plucked spike lutes is the classification. And in Africa, there's a number of plucked spike lutes, including goni, or in Senegal, halam. And the similarities are that there is a stretched hide as a sound table, mine's plastic, and usually there are these shortened strings called drone strings on both sides. And so it's possible that those instruments did come to the Americas during slavery, but it's more plausible, they say, that African Americans in the Caribbean and on the mainland had kind of a memory of these plucked spike lutes. And when they were trying to play instruments or make instruments, they sort of used that memory to recreate their own plucked spiked lutes from the materials they had. And so they used gourds and they used wood. In the African instruments, they're a spherical neck, but they flattened it out. And so they started playing their music on that. And by the 1800s, a lot of black Americans were playing banjos for dances and for white audiences, along with the fiddle and other instruments. And people started to take note and say, that's pretty cool stuff. Maybe I want to try playing that instrument. And so by the end of the 1800s, we had what were the minstrel shows, and both white and black performers would put on makeup called blackface and darken their skin, and they would play banjos and fiddles and bones, and some of it was kind of stereotypical of the music in the South, and some of it was just blatantly racist. So it's kind of a troubled past of our American music, but this is where a lot of this stuff comes from. So one of these minstrel troupes made their way over to England, and the King of England, just like people in America, said, hey, that's pretty cool. I think I might want to play that. So the King of England, I can't remember, I think it was Henry, one of the Henrys, he started playing banjo. And then, before you know it, everyone in England, that was like the in thing to do. Hey, the king is playing banjo. And so they needed to kind of have their own music to play that was of their culture, that they could play and compose music for that instrument. So people started writing manuals and compositions for the banjo. They call this style classic banjo. My friend Ron Hinkle, who lives out in Sierra Vista, he says that they put a tuxedo on the banjo. So there are these manuals in the early 1900s, and you know, the banjo has the fifth string. A lot of you have seen that. It comes out of the neck here like a bluegrass player would play. And there were instructions in the manual. Some people didn't like it. They wanted to use a plectrum. So there were instructions to disengage the fifth string. You would pull it back and hook it onto something, and then you could strum away and not have that incessant droning. So, and then eventually enough people were doing that they just manufactured banjos that way. And that is how you get this instrument, which is called the Plectrum Banjo. So it's a full-length scale, just like a bluegrass banjo, but there's no fifth string. So I can run my thumb along here, and I don't have any problems. There's also the tenor banjo, which is short, which oddly enough is another fourth string, but has kind of a different lineage. It comes from mandolins and mandolin bands, which were very popular in the era, and then they needed a banjo to play, so they kind of turned the mandolin into a banjo. So anyways, one more thing I want to mention is a guy who's the most famous plectrum banjo player of all time, probably always will be, and his name's Eddie Peabody. And if you haven't heard of him, you can look him up on YouTube, because he's got some phenomenal videos. And he was actually buried in Tucson. He lived in Tucson for the last part of his life. And he grew up playing in vaudeville, and then kind of had a resurgence in the 50s and 60s. And this style had a resurgence at Shakey's Pizza. Has anybody ever been to Shakey's Pizza before? Nice. So yeah, they kind of played this style of music and had sing-alongs. And Eddie Peabody would grease up his strings, because he slid around and played all these chords up and down the neck. And so yeah, it's kind of funny how he did that. But we're going to play a song called California, Here I Come, and I'll attempt to do a little bit of Eddie Peabody type playing here. Oh man, I'd love a slice of pizza. Yeah. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, pizzas. Greasy. All right, this is California, Here I Come. It was sung by Al Jolson, and it is also the theme song of I Love Lucy for one season when they went to California. Ricky sang this in the car. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our tuba player. Did you expect our tuba player to sing? Yes. He's gonna sing a good one for you. So I'm gonna pass it back here. How's that?
That works for me. Thanks, Richard. I'm gonna do a song. This one's called Nobody's Sweetheart. It's written by Gus Kahn, Ernie Erdman, Elmer Sherbel, and Billy Myers. It was written like a lot of these back in the 20s and was performed by greats like Isham Jones, and Louis Armstrong had a version, Doris Day later on in the 50s. The version that I heard when I first heard this song was the Bob Wills band that was out of Texas. They moved to California for a bit, and they recorded a whole bunch of songs for a transcription service, which was like where they could sort of have a syndicated radio program. And so they recorded this song in the 40s, and then their recordings were kind of lost for a while, but kind of reappeared in the 80s. And then I heard some friends playing it up in Flagstaff, and so when Richard mentioned this song, I was like, yeah, I know that one. And So I'm happy to do it, and kind of course, like all these songs, is reminiscent of the 20s, but I kind of thinking of a Western swing feel when I'm singing it at least, and I'm sure happy that I can do it for you today. You're nobody's sweetheart now. They don't pay you somehow. Fancy hose, silken gown, you'd be out of place in your old hometown when you walk down the avenue. I just can't believe it's you. Painted lips, mascara eyes, wearing a bird of paradise. It all seems wrong somehow that you're nobody's sweetheart now. Thank you, John.
So it took me a long time to find xylophone players, if you can imagine. And so we really like to feature the xylophone, and this is another feature from Sonia Branch, so I'm going to pass it along to her to introduce this one.
So this tune is from a composer and fabulous percussionist named Harry Brewer, who was a slightly younger contemporary of George Hamilton Green. He was born maybe 10 years later. Just passed away in, Green only lived to be, he died in 1970. Harry Brewer, I think, passed away in 1989. Did lots and lots of soundtracks, put out a lot of albums. I think had more of a jazz influence. You'll hear the difference in this tune versus the last one. This tune's called On the Woodpile, and when I was in my undergrad years, I got to play in my instructor's xylophone ragtime band for 4 years. And we did a lot of different stuff, and I always liked the Harry Brewer tunes more than the Green tunes, and I don't really know why. But I'm really glad to be able to play this solo like the other one with a different configuration than just with marimba band, because that's, most of us percussionists, that's when we get to play these solos, is with marimbas backing us up. So this is fantastic to be able to play it, because I think this is probably more what it would have been like in the 20s. This is kind of group. So it's so much fun to play it with this instrumentation. They followed me from Phoenix. One, two, 3, 4.
So, this band is multi-talented, I have to say. Everyone is in at least a couple bands. I know Steve is in the Benja Bloom band. Sonia leads Ensemble de Sonia. The Sachna, I put that in the wrong place. Byron sings and plays guitar with the Tumbleweeds. They're a Western band, they're really good. And John is in Moonlight Magic. They're a great band that plays Steve. I got ahead of myself. Steve is in Moonlight Magic. And John, there we go, is going to sing our next tune. And I met him sitting in with the Hot Beignets. And they play New Orleans music, and he plays trombone with them as well. And so I'm going to pass the, Steve. Sing. Thanks, Steve. Let's do this. All right. And I'll play that melody with you. Okay, we have power melody.
Just slide up to that.
Right, I'll just get closer. And then this one muted. Now I turned it off.
Now it's on.
Turn it away from us.
Sorry.
Incompetent, you're incompetent.
Maybe just turn the volume down a little bit for this one. I guess that's in a weird spot for the
I'll sing
mics.
loud. It's on your try.
Here we go.
Look, here's what that.
Cool.
Different style.
Sorry, folks. This song is so soft and gentle for that introduction. This is called Girl of My Dreams.
Can I talk about it for a second?
Oh yeah, please, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is Girl of My Dreams, written by Sonny Clapp and first recorded in 1928.
talk about the horn, so I'll talk about my horn. This is a trombone. It's the funniest instrument in the band. And it's also the only instrument in this band or any other that changes shape when you play it, which provides certain challenges to the player. Trombone is the one instrument that is considered the most close to the human voice. This instrument covers a range from well down into the human bass, through the tenor, up near the top of the alto voice. So it covers a huge range, and it slides around like a human voice can. So that's probably all you want to know about trombones.
It's probably more than I want.
Maybe more than you want. All right.
A 1, and hopefully we won't freak out. Just a little check here. Yeah, are you gonna do a little more at some point, maybe? So we're gonna do this song now, and it's a great song, and I think this might be our last one. I don't know, decide, but it's kind of our big ending here. So this is called
Big finish.
Yeah, big finish. And this is called Whispering. Very nice song called Whispering. And we're going to sing the verse. Sometimes, people don't realize a lot of these songs have verses or introductions. And a lot of these songs are written for musicals, and they kind of have this introduction that sets the scene. Maybe the singer's going to tell you a little part of the story and then goes into it. And what happened in the jazz era is people want to solo, they want to blow, they want to go crazy. And so they use the chorus, and that's the part that over years as these becomes jazz standards, people just know the choruses. So that's one of our missions with this band, is to bring back some of the old verses that don't get heard. start this one off with the tuba playing the melody, because why not, you know?
Can't get enough tuba.
Honey, I have something to tell you, and it's worthwhile listening to. Put your little head on my shoulder, so that I can whisper to you, whispering while you cuddle near me, whispering so no one can hear me. Each little whisper seems to cheer me. I know it's true, there is no one but you, dear. I know whispering why you'll never leave me, whispering so you'll never grieve me. Whisper and say that you'll believe me, whispering that I love you. Whisper to Steve. Do another one.
We can't end without Steve talking about his little saxophone.
Yeah, look at this saxophone here. People always want to know. Thank you, thank you. So Steve, talk about your little saxophone.
It went through the wash. The dryer setting was on high. It used to be an alto saxophone, and this is what I am.
True story?
It's verdad. This is a curved soprano. Initially, saxophones were not around the 20s, and there were a lot of really terrific vaudeville entertainers. I think there were the Brown brothers. There were also female groups, and they had everything from the soprano to the bass saxophone, and they would do all these little stunt things and all this music. And so originally the sopranos that were made, they were novelty instruments, and they weren't too fussy about pitch, and they didn't have a high F, and later on, but the sound is different. Generally you'll see a straight soprano, but these have a more beautiful sound, I think, and so I ended up with one of these and never looked back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And we're going to play one more song. This is truly the last song.
Maybe I shouldn't use this.
Just belt it out. And we're going to do a song for you called Avalon. And this is going to include one of the verses as well. This was sung by Al Jolson in his movie called The Singing Kid. And a lot of these songs that Al Jolson sang that were composed for him have his name on the credits too, but it was really just to sell sheet music. So, but this is a great song. It's called Avalon. Hope you enjoy it. And you've been such a lovely audience, and we really appreciate the Piano Society for bringing us out. And this is a great place to play. And thanks for coming to see us and being so great.
I find my mind recalling that blissful all crawling day.
Thank you.